Welcome to the Liberate Your Life podcast. I'm Melinda Fletcher, your mystic mountain mama and Ayurvedic expert, here to guide you through the intertwining paths of Ayurveda, somatic healing, and spiritual growth. In each episode, we explore the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda, diving into a transformative world of somatic practices and embark on a journey towards spiritual enlightenment. Whether you're a newcomer or a seasoned explorer in these realms, our discussions are designed to illuminate and inspire. Imagine this podcast as your sanctuary, where ancient traditions and modern insights converge. From practical Ayurvedic wisdom to profound somatic healing techniques, we cover it all, helping you integrate these practices into your daily life for holistic well-being. So grab your favorite cup of herbal tea, find a cozy spot, and settle in. Together we'll uncover the secrets to physical health, emotional balance, and spiritual awakening. It's time to liberate your life, embrace your inner wisdom, and awaken to your true potential. Hello, dear listeners, and welcome back to Liberate Your Life podcast. This episode 40, is called True Freedom, A Soul's Journey to Liberation. This podcast is where liberation is not just a concept, but the very essence of our existence. I'm Melinda Fletcher, your host, and I am thrilled to share this journey today and explore liberation. It is not just the core of my life and work, it resonates deeply with the souls of all beings. We all have an innate yearning for true freedom, a desire to break free from the chains of limitations and live authentically. Join me as we dive into the depths of the soul, unravel the mysteries of the ego, and reclaim our inherent freedom together. Okay, who's with me? All right, so liberation. Liberation is the name of this podcast. And the idea of liberation is like this wild journey of deep, profound healing where we're unpacking and we're unraveling the very nature of our conditioning, the trauma, the experience, the imprints, the societal conditioning, and we're getting back to the core of who we truly are in our inner world, our true essence that has always been there and will always be there. So this liberation is, how do we reconnect into our innate birthright to live authentically as us? This is what we came here to do in this lifetime. So when we look into this is such a deep spiritual dive into understanding and to fully becoming that which we know, right? To have it embodied in the embodiment of all of ourselves through all of our thoughts, that it's not just a theory and a concept, but that we begin with the idea that we are not our thoughts, right? So our thoughts come and go. They can be kind, they can be mean, they can be everything in between that. And they're very convincing. And most of our thoughts are not true. Very, very little is true. And very little are new thoughts, right? So like we kind of, although every moment is different and we're always evolving, like our thoughts are repetitive, they're lists, they're driven by anxiety, fear, insecurities, overwhelm, stimulation, aggravation, external influences, stories, something that someone did years ago or a couple months ago, right? So our mind just wanders around and around and around, and it doesn't have manners. It just continues to go and it pops in. So when we understand and we fully have a direct experience that we are not our thoughts, right? So there's an actual space between who are you truly at your core and in your essence, and then what is the mind and what are these thoughts, right? And our thoughts create our reality. Through our thoughts become our words, and our thoughts become our actions, and our actions become our habits, and our habits become our reality, right? So as soon as we have these thoughts, they can evoke pretty intense experiences in our visceral, in our tissues on a cellular level, right? So we're looking at the nervous system. We're looking at the messages that the mind is giving, right? It gives us messages about how we see our body, how we feel in the world, what that person might be thinking, how the world is going to think about what we said, that we're worried about, finding meaning and connection and intimacy. And how are we going to navigate getting in our car and going about our errands, or finding a job, or going back to school, or getting pregnant? I mean, there's so many things that the mind is constantly thinking about, and it sends these messages to the body. So we have we have a somatic experience, the mind-body connection, the thoughts felt through the body, imprinted in the body. So we're having these experiences, right? So we have to recognize that we are not those thoughts. And then if we are not those thoughts, how are those thoughts influencing our human experience? And then how can we rewire and reprogram the thoughts that we are having, so that if in fact we're experiencing what our thoughts are saying, then what do we really want this experience to be? And how can we influence, and how can we get distance to start to look at our thoughts and to start being, wow, like that is a repetitive thought, or that is a negative thought, or that is a painful thought, or that's an insecure thought, or that's what my dad said, or that's what my mom said, or that's what that teacher said, or that's what that kid said back then, that really imprinted my system and started piling up. To then I started living life and seeing life through that filter, and then having those experiences. And the more we think that that's the way life is, the more we attract, the law of attraction, right? So it comes, then we build that case against ourselves in the world. So how do we recognize that we are not our thoughts is like one of the major steps to freedom and liberation. The other part is, since we are very, very young in our developmental years, we create the ego. And the ego is there it becomes part of our personality, and it's there, it gets established through protection and survival of our deepest vulnerabilities so that we can survive and thrive. So it has a place. However, a lot of these things that were happening back when we were so young, and I'm talking about like the first 6 years of our life, are no longer our present day reality, right? So those things may have served us then, but they are no longer serving us now. And at this point, they become a bit sour, like sour milk. Like they don't fit into our life. However, they've become such a deep unconscious pattern, and they've become so much a part of our thoughts and our perspective and filters of how we experience ourselves and the world, that the ego, we think we are our ego. So we talk about in spiritual circles and understandings and philosophy about ego dissolution and ego death, and deconstructing the ego, and unpacking the ego, and unraveling the ego. And what that means is, as we dive into our thoughts and our identities and our past experiences and our traumas and our emotions and our emotional tendencies and our emotional instabilities, we start to get more intimate with the ego. Now, the ego is the one that's like obsessive around creating an identity and a personality. But at the same time, what it's done is it's helped to tuck away and these places and pieces of ourselves that we have forgotten, rejected, or disowned. And the ego takes so many different shapes as we are going through a healing process, as we are going through ego dissolution. The ego transforms, and really every single day as we try to reprogram, rewire, heal, connect to our innate being, freedom, through so many different healing modalities, the ego is going to come up every day and be like, no, you need me. Remember, we've been through all of this. I've been there for you. I'm your dearest friend. I'm here to protect you. And it's right there at this cliff of you diving into the unknown of what it feels like to be you. And what it feels like to be you is through this pattern personality that has been consumed by unhealed emotions, unhealed insecurities, unhealed traumas, unhealed conditioning, and an idea of how the world has told you and influenced you and shaped you to be. So the ego goes in and it designs from the roots up. It threads through your entire being, and it's super convincing. It becomes your personality, becomes how you feel and know yourself to be in the world. It's familiar. So the ego is going to come up so strong when you are doing this healing work, when you are really moving your focus and attention and energy and the impulse of freedom and really that inner spiritual impulse that comes on for true freedom, where you're like, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to live like this. Something gets unlocked in your system. And once you see, you cannot unsee. You can get distracted. You can slow it down. But that impulse, something has woken up, whether it's through a traumatic experience, whether it's through a yoga practice, whether it's something that happens to you or to a loved one, or you're out in nature, or you do some extraordinary thing, or you are just at this vulnerable, tender place where you're like, I surrender. And then, oh, wow, the truth of your being is right there in the current that has been carrying you this whole time. And the egoic structure that gets conditioned and created at such a young age to protect you starts to crumble. And as it's crumbling, it starts to reorient your life each moment through these new filters of awareness, through these new understandings and perspectives of truth, what you truly are. You start to see through these veils and these filters of how you've felt and seen yourself, and you start to realize that they're not true and that those thoughts aren't true. So if those aren't true, then what's here and who am I in this mystery, in this unfolding, right? And so when the ego covers up these places of tenderness and vulnerabilities that we've made contracts when we were very young because they were so tender and the world wasn't nice and that was painful, and we're going to protect those places, and we're not going to be so big and bold and bright and beautiful and radiant because the world's like, oh, no, don't do that. Don't be like that. Don't be you. Don't be you. Don't be you. And you're like, oh, wow, well, that's uncomfortable for them. So as a child, we don't know how to understand that. So as we start to dive into our inner world and we start to deconstruct that ego that's covered up all there, in that very place lies the key to your freedom, in the deepest vulnerabilities, in the deepest tenders, in those places that we have rejected, forgotten, and disowned because of the external world. We start to go in and we start to remember who we are. We start to reclaim our wholeness. We start to integrate that which is in the unconscious, in the subconscious, in the shadow. And we start to see how we've been imprinted, how we've been conditioned through the external world. We start to understand the things that we were subjected to and influenced by as children. And then we're like, oh my God, I'm this like adult person with, however many years under your belt. But here's this inner child that is still running the show because they didn't get something, or they did get something that wasn't quite fitting or emotionally kind or loving or supportive. Their needs weren't being met. So here's this child that jumps in the front seat of your adult life and has a temper tantrum and starts dragging you around as if you were back in that space. So we start going into the depths of our being. We start going into the shadow work. We start bringing the unconscious into the light to be illuminated so that we can see what's been controlling us, what thoughts, And then that's where we really dive into this path of true freedom and liberation. So, Liberate Your Life podcast. This has been my deepest devotion. My healing journey really fired up when I was 20, and it's a lifetime of work. I'm always becoming more intimate with these deep themes that really got rocked for me when I was a child, and then how they have controlled my life, how they show up, all the ways, the way that I feel in my body, the way that I have intimate relationships, the way that I go about life through the filters of that infrastructure. And when I came to the point in my spiritual healing journey to deconstruct the ego, it was one of the hardest initiations, and then it was the most, what was in what I used to fear the most, what was in me was the most beautiful avenue to a space that was me, and that was full of creative energy and deep trust and deep knowing that has been there all along. And so then you're cradled by this loving embrace of the divine nature that is at the core of life. So again, liberation, this idea of freedom and true freedom to be authentically you, who you came here to be, and then understanding that from the time that we are born, and there's also influences beyond that we come into this life with, but by the time we are born and we come into this world, we get influenced by experiences, by our guides, our parents, by our teachers and friends, by environments, by things that happen, and they shape us and they shape us and they shape us. And most often they confine us and contort us into who we become to know ourselves to be. And then we go through life. And then something happens where we're like, am I happy? Who am I? What is this life? Why do I feel this way? Why do I experience life? What are these patterns? Why do I keep banging my head against the wall and keep repeating these unhealthy behaviors? Or why am I escaping in social media or drinking or unhealthy relationships? Or why do I constantly do these 180s? What's going on with my nervous system? Why can't I sleep? What is that knocking internally? What's bigger than this? There's got to be something bigger than this. This can't be it. This can't be everything. So we go into this journey, and this deep spiritual impulse comes alive. And again, I say it rearranges your life. So the more you see and the deeper you go in this, the more it rearranges your life, because there's so many things that just don't fit and align with the understanding and depth of who you are transforming, becoming, always being, always becoming. There's always this shift in consciousness and awareness. So it rearranges your life. And so relationships drop off. Work might not align anymore, the way you live your life. And then you start to really, there's this craving and this yearning for the practices that really allow you to bask in the frequency of quiet, slow stillness. This space where you really get to connect with that which you truly are. And then it's it becomes this frequency and this energy that carries you through life. And then you get to start really, not that you get to start, but there's this natural unfolding of deep meaning and purpose to align with your dharma. So what's your gift? What is your gift? We are all special, and we all have these beautiful gifts to bring to the world. So you start wanting to get more intimate with your gifts, and because you want to feel aligned. And so when we're in alignment, we connect with our true gifts and the way that we share our unique frequency and our unique energy and our unique love with the world. So yeah, this beautiful deep dive into true freedom, liberating the soul. The soul has come here for liberation, whether it happens in this lifetime or the next lifetime or the next lifetime. But the idea with the soul's liberation is that all souls get what they need. So we get what we need to evolve as a soul. So in our human lives, the lessons and the challenges and the growth and the transformation is all designed to wake us up and bring us back to our true nature, our true essence, our true self. And then that liberates the soul. So we come in with some scars, we come in with these pain loops, and then we develop more in this lifetime. And then it's this freedom to really heal and close these huge soul themes that are stored in the psyche, soul, and tissue. And then that gives us the pathway into full liberation. And wow. Every day I am in awe of really feeling the divine nature, the divinity that is within everything, and the divinity that is waking up through our humanity, and the eyes of the soul that get to peer out and look around and are like, whoa, this is the mystery. This is the materialized form of consciousness in millions and millions of different forms. And here I am in this soul, in this fun-free body, expanding, healing, grieving, releasing, transforming. So this was a wild journey into the mystery of true freedom. And I hope you enjoyed this episode here on Liberate Your Life podcast. Thank you for tuning in to Liberate Your Life podcast. I hope this podcast has sparked a sense of curiosity and inspiration within you as we explore the transformative journey of liberation. Remember, true freedom isn't found in external circumstances or possessions. It's a state of being that arises from within. May you continue to nurture the flame of liberation within your heart and soul, and may it guide you towards a life of truth, authenticity, and boundless freedom. Until next time, stay true to yourself and keep the vision for true freedom. You can connect with me, Melinda Fletcher, host of Liberate Your Life podcast, on Instagram at Sattva Wellness Center, or you can head to my website, sattvawellnesscenter.com. Sattva is spelled Sattva, and check out my beautiful offerings. I do offer a free consultation virtually where we can explore how Ayurveda and ancient practices and somatic practices can truly support your freedom journey.